Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Soil health is under pressure, but real solutions start below the surface. Black Earth offers a full suite of humic solutions, from high-purity granules to powder, liquid, and soluble formulations, all powered by pure Humulite. Formulated for performance, backed by consistency, trusted by growers worldwide from one of the world's rarest reserves. Grow stronger with the power of Black Earth Humulite. Learn more from Mine to Market at blackearth.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today, we have a great returning guest. We have Heather Venenga. How are you?
Great. It's so good to be back again.
I am so excited to have you back and continue our conversation about transition planning. So those of you that caught Heather the last time, you will have loved the episode. I had great feedback. If you didn't, you might want to watch that one after these two that we're doing today. So Heather is the owner of American Harvest Financial, a financial advisor from Watertown, South Dakota, and the author of this phenomenal book.
You're so kind.
Yeah. And that is what we did the episode about last time. I was just so pumped to find your book on Amazon, and I invited you on, and we worked our way through the book and talked a little bit about why and all that good stuff. So that's a great episode, guys. This conversation, we're diving into two parts of transition planning and two parts that Heather mentions in the book. So before we get into our episode, Heather, can you tell our audience a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so like she said, I'm Heather Venenga. I live in Watertown, South Dakota. We moved home about 10 years ago so my husband could take over the family farm. And prior to that, I had worked in corporate America. And so became a financial advisor when we moved here. And I am very passionate about farm succession planning because we had really good luck with ours. It wasn't perfect, but it was very good. And as I met farm families and was working with them in my financial practice, I realized that they were really struggling and they needed help, they needed direction, they needed a system. And they just didn't know, nobody was giving them the right information and kind of guiding them through it. And so I really worked hard to put a process together and worked with a lot of really good attorneys that understand farm succession planning and some farm mediators, and just got really good at what I do. And now I'm lucky enough to work with farm families all over the United States and be able to do lots of speaking events and just help people out to learn everything they can about farm succession planning. So, yeah.
I love it. We are on a mutual journey. You know the succession planning world just as well as I do. We see sometimes and hear when it goes bad more often than we do the good situations. But I think more than anything, people are struggling to know the steps. Right, Heather? I mean, we usually do this once, if maybe twice in our farming career. There's no real roadmap, and everybody's farm is so different. And actually what I found the last couple of years, I haven't found many books on this. And what I love, and I'm going to get you to share a little bit about your book too, just to set the stage for our conversation. But what I love about books are our episodes here are great. Podcasts are great. YouTube channels are great. Written articles are great, but they're piecemeal, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to paint a big connected story. And that is what I love about books. And when I found your book, I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's so easy to read and it's fun. So on that note, do you want to speak about your book a little bit? I want you to give a plug and tell our audience all about it.
It was a ton of fun to write. It's a parable. So half of it's like a wolf story, and there's a little bit of humor in there because not everything has to be so serious. So it's about wolves that are doing farm succession planning, which I know is crazy. So we see them kind of go through that process. And then in every chapter after that, there is facts, things you need to know, steps, like what we learned from the wolf story, things that you can put into practice. And then the last section of every chapter is action steps, like exactly things to think about, questions to ask, what to do. So yeah, and it just goes through the whole process, beginning to end. So.
Hey, it's me. If you're enjoying this episode, like it and subscribe. We are here to bring you the people and ideas that'll impact your farming operation. And I would love to have you each week on this journey. Subscribe, and I'll see you back in the episode. Nice. And you know what I like about the fact that you made it into a parable is it's fun. And to me, it takes a lot of the pressure and intensity off, and maybe even the finger pointing, where if you put it in the traditional roles, farm mom, farm dad, kids fighting, this is such a heated topic that I think and it's okay, the books are written the other way, but I think if you were to try and read this and share this with a family member, and it's the traditional roles, it might be a little like finger pointing, where it's like, listen to this funny story about this wolf family. And then it's easy to give it to your parents. And I find it just kind of takes that personal, maybe finger pointing off a little bit. That's so helpful for this type of situation, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do. Like you can step back and laugh about some of the things they say to each other, or or they run into these pigs that know it all, or, those kind of things, just funny stuff. And you can just say, yeah, that is like the neighbors, like, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then we have the neighbors and Fancy Wolf, and I loved it. And you know what? It's just fun to read too, where a lot of this stuff would be like an estate plan, and it could get pretty boring, right?
Yeah.
We're here. It's quick, it's precise, it's a great overview. And for people that are struggling and like chasing their tail around, which I find is the feeling between power dynamics and personal relationships and just not knowing what to do. Like this is a great, like, oh, okay, let's take a step, right?
Right. Yeah.
Last night, as I was preparing for our conversation today, I was rereading the parts about wills and trusts. Guys, that's what we're going to talk about today. One episode about wills and trusts, and then we're going to break it up and do one about fair and equal. So as I was brushing up on those sections of the book, it was funny. The neighbor, Mama Piggy, came over to learn about what Mama Wolf learned about, about fair and equal, because Mama Piggy has 10 piglets and she's concerned how to split the farm up. So, as much as there is humor, one might go, well, that doesn't sound very serious. But it gets to the point and it conveys everything. So it was just brilliant. And then I was re-immersed again. Anyways, longest intro I've ever done to an episode, Heather. But
here we are.
Here we are. Best conversation. Welcome back, Heather. We are doing part 2 of our episode together. We just finished wills and trusts in the last segment. And today we're going to be talking about fair and equal. We mentioned it at the beginning of the episode. We are drawing from Heather's wisdom as a professional and some of the concepts you share in this book. So let's dive right in. Fair and equal. My goodness, there is nothing I want to talk about more right now than this. Because honestly, I think I'm going to name all the beautiful and the ugly and the natural and the human. I think there's control issues. Of course, that's our farm. Do we want to pass it on? I do believe all parents are well-intentioned and want their kids to do well, without a doubt. But there's fears. They don't know the steps. How are they going to get paid? How do you do this? Are the kids going to fight?
Right.
And I'm spending a lot of time on fair and equal and saying, like, let's talk about this. Not just like airy-fairy. Let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and some strategies as well. So I think there's about 70% of farms, don't quote me, somewhere around there, a huge number that don't have a transition plan and or a written transition plan. Why do you think, in your experience, feelings, all of that, why do you think farmers don't plan?
I think time gets away from us. Like,
Mm.
I think, it's like, man, it's harvest and planting and, it's always just going in the holidays and then, all that. So seems like time just gets away from us. I think it's a sticky point, and fair and equal is usually a big part of this. And we think human nature makes you think, oh, that's not good. I'm going to stay away from it. And I compare it like going to the doctor. You have a side pain every once in a while, and you need to go to the doctor, but you don't go to the doctor, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. And that's how succession planning is. Like you think going and dealing with it is going to be the worst case scenario, but really lack of dealing with it is the absolute worst case scenario. And if you just jump in and deal with it, it's going to be better. But people they want to avoid pain. It's like human nature, And so I think that's part of it. I think there's still a generation out there that really thinks that it's no one else's business, and whatever they want to have happen will happen when they pass away. I think there's a few people who really think they're just in denial about passing away, right? Like they just are really stubborn about it yet. And I think it's, that the older generation, I think us as younger people, we realize that, we're more in tune with the laws, and we have Google. So we're a little more technology. We know a little more. And I think there's still so much, issue out there yet with a generation that really just thinks whatever they want to have happen will happen. And that's just not it. You have to absolutely have it written up. So I think those were the biggest reasons. And then, darn it, there's a lot of conflicting information out there, And so people are hearing all this different stuff, and they just don't know what to do. So they don't do anything. And they think they have to have all the answers. And they don't to get started. They just have to have the right team. But, that's what happens. They don't know what to do, so they don't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to drop a note here, and maybe relevant or not. Sometimes when I'm doing this work, I truly I'm passionate about this. I've seen it destroy families close to me, families all around. And part of me, when I'm having these conversations, I'm frustrated, and it's not right. I'm frustrated because of entitlement as well. I've always said, whatever my parents have, it doesn't matter. That's a blessing. And sometimes I want to say that in every episode, because I feel not everybody, right? There's that entitlement, and that goes against my nature. We've done our own thing and built our own farm alongside his parents. But that's too simplistic, I have learned. And the fact is that there is a farming child involved, and he needs to know his future. And just by nature, there are non-farming children probably going, well, what's going to happen? So we got to have these conversations, right?
Yes. Yeah. And once you have a plan and share it, then it's done. You don't have to worry about the conflict anymore. And, when you do good planning, everybody's comfortable with it. Like at least the decision makers are, right? And so that's what takes that stress off the table. So yeah, for sure.
I like it because, and I've seen it happen when the subject's not handled for whatever reason, that's the undercurrent. And it destroys family harmony, right? Where you can just be like, okay, let's get some advice as the founders, figure out a plan roughly, and then open the can of worms and then deal with the worms instead of being like, ooh, let's not talk about it, right? But I think that's also a personality type too, right? Head on or avoidance. And
and I'm a big believer in the decision makers making the decision.
Yes.
And so whoever owns it needs to make the decision. And we don't usually build our farms and ranches by voting, right? Like it isn't like you get everybody together in the whole entire family and have a discussion. That's just not it. You do what you need to do. And that's what needs to happen with the succession planning too. And so I encourage the decision makers, which is usually mom and dad, but not always. Sometimes it's two brothers, whatever it is, to whoever actually owns it, sit down with a professional and have the discussion of, what do you guys want to see happen? Like, and then have that be your driving force. People don't get a vote on it. Like that isn't what we're going to do here. They need to make the decision. And I believe they will make the decision that's right for their family and the farm. As long as they get the right guidance, every time, so, but it's got to be made. Yeah.
The right tools, right? If you have the right tools and options, then you have flexibility.
Yeah. So many options.
We're going to get into right away. One more thing, fair and equal just seems to be a big thing now. I would say exactly like you said before, because of the times we're in. Number one, it's not okay for one sibling to get the whole farm just culturally. Two,
Right.
I'd say litigation. And three, land prices are so high. The
Easy
farming
money.
children or the non-farming children are no longer going, whatever, whatever. It's like,
Yep.
it's big dollars, right?
Huge dollars. Yeah, I have a client I worked with, and he came in with his son. Son had farmed his whole life. The guy, the dad came in, he had farmed his whole life. And I said, how did you inherit your farm? Like, what was that like? And he said, well, I had three sisters. I had farmed my whole entire life. Mom and dad had done no planning whatsoever. Dad died. I kept farming, made sure mom was taken care of. Then mom passed away. There's nothing in place whatsoever. So that goes through probate in the United States. And so he said, I sat my sisters down at the kitchen table, the three of them, and I said, what can I do to make this right for you? Knowing that if he had to split that four ways, that farm was done, right? Like, it was toast even back then. And so he said, I sat my three sisters down and said, what can I do to make this fair to you? And they said, give us each $1 and we'll call it fair. And so I asked him, are your kids going to be the same way? And he says, absolutely not. No, right? It doesn't work that way. It used to work that way years ago. Land wasn't worth what it is worth now. It was viewed differently. Money was viewed differently, I think, back then. And so now it's like you need to have a plan in place. It just doesn't work that way anymore. So yeah.
You touched on this already, and I'm going to lead the witness here. I kind of see how it would try and go to one sibling before. Now I
Yep.
almost feel that because of the things we said before, the pendulum is going way over here, and now we're trying to be so equal. Here is the challenge. And what I am concerned about farmers getting bad advice or no options
Yeah.
is they try
Yeah.
and do fair and equal, so equal that we are going to kill every single family farm. There's my concern. Can
Yeah.
you split a farm equally? Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah. A couple things from that. It's a business. And I don't see anybody trying to split a restaurant. When mom and dad pass away, nobody says, let's split the restaurant. No, you'd have to sell the restaurant to split it. Farm's the same way. Like, you cannot split that. Like, how are you going to split it? And we all know what our margins are. They're not fantastic. And we know what our land is worth. And if you sell it, then you're in trouble, right? You don't have it anymore. And so if you had to pay out fair market value to one of your siblings until they were equal, like, how are you going to do that? That's not going to cash flow. And so we really need to sit down and look at it as a business and not a farm. And for some reason, we think when we pass a farm on, it's treated differently than when we pass all these other businesses on. But you take any other business and you've got somebody running that business in the family, they don't expect to split that business equally when you pass away. That's just not how it works. And so we really need to use the systems and tactics that have been used for other types of businesses for generations to now take it into farming, which is big business nowadays. It's a business, and use those tactics and strategies to pass on wealth. And now I'm not saying leave anybody out, but there's absolute ways that you can do fair and equal, where people, non-farming siblings inherit money or whatever it might be, have an inheritance but yet it's not splitting that farm up. Yeah. So
I like it. Okay. I have gone through in advance, and I'm trying to gather my thoughts and bring information together in one episode. So I'm a little extra chatty in this episode, Heather, but I want to name, and I'm not sure how this will flow. I want to name the different situations that can happen. And then maybe if you want to touch on all of them, grab them. I don't know the best way to flow, but here's the scenarios. Because I find, again, people are spinning. It's like, what do we do? Okay, let's narrow it down to about 5 outcomes. So parents give it all to one child, and then the bad outcome is the other children can sue because there's case law on that, right?
Sure.
The parents give it unequally to farming child, and then the children sue. Parents leave the farm to farming child, and non-farm assets to the other children, like a cabin, a house, pension funds, whatever.
Yep.
Parents create a corporation and issue shares to all children. And then parents leave the farm to the farming child and life insurance to non-farming children. I think that's about, what do I have there? 5. That's about 5 outcomes, right?
Yeah. And when I when I work with families, the way I go about it is we make sure we understand it's a business. We got to be on the same page with that. And I always have a discussion about fair and equal. Because I assume people realize that we can't split it evenly and have it still go. Once in a while, somebody has a little bit different opinion on that. And but most of the time they get it. They're like, yeah, I can't split it and have it still go. And if the goal is to keep it going, then let's look at it. So we look at that. And then we look at, and we have a real conversation about, like, when we leave money or assets, it's a way of showing love. It just is. We want everybody to feel like they're part of the family. We want them to feel honored. We don't want somebody to be seen as like the golden child and they get everything, right? That's what we want. And moms it's always the moms that say it. I'm sure the dads are thinking it, but the moms say, like, I just want my kids to feel loved. Like, I don't want them to feel left out. And I get that. Like, and we need to have those conversations. And so we have that conversation. And then we have a talk about, so we have a maybe $10 million farm. Nobody needs to inherit millions and millions of cash. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. When you get that $10 million farm, there's nothing liquid about it. And so, plus, I'll just, and maybe you leave that farm so it can't be sold. Like, that's what I would do. I would leave it in a way so it can't be sold. I would leave it in a way so that when it's inherited by the next generation, that it can't be like lost in divorce for any of them, right? Like, I would lock that puppy up. Like, is somebody getting the farm? Yeah. But are they really getting it? I mean, nobody really ever owns it, right? It's an honor to work it, and it's locked up so that it stays in the family. Like, that's what I would do. Like, that's what we do, right? And so you want to keep it safe from all the stuff that can happen to it. So they're getting a job, right? Like, they're getting the honor of running the farm, but they're getting a career. And so we talk about, like, what's that? And it can make people feel uncomfortable. Like, what's a comfortable amount of money that you would like to leave to your non-farming heirs? Like, what do you feel good about? And sometimes people will say, I want to leave them $1 million. Okay, then we're going to leave them each $1 million. Sometimes it's like, like 250 is fine. So that number is every family's choice, but we got to come up with a number. Like, we got to figure something out, And so we figure out what they want that to look like, and then we step into it. So how can we get there and have it work with reality, with the real numbers? And so that's when I give solutions. And I always say I probably come up with 10 ways that we can work out this fair and equal. We just need to get there. And so, and people don't know what they are. I'm going to share some of them now. People don't know what they are, like, and they sit at home and they think about it and they wish they knew. And you really don't know all your options. And so, like, yeah, you mentioned life insurance, you mentioned other assets. Maybe they have a cabin. We see a lot of that. We can definitely build some life insurance policies to make sure that, that's there. If that works, people love it when that works. But if we wait too long, it's not going to work. So that's definitely one. We can maybe maybe we have some extra revenue from the farm. Maybe if we look at our cash flow and it's like we cash flow pretty good, we can maybe send some out to the I almost say it's almost like a contract for deed, but not really, but it looks like that, like you're paying some assets out over a certain period of time to the non-farming children. So yeah, all sorts of options, but we just need to get really real about what we want them to inherit. And when we sit down and have a professional conversation about it, in an office, right? And then we get there. But unfortunately, if we're just trying to think about it at home and, fit it in, we just can't get there. You just need a little guidance. But when we can have a real conversation, it comes very easily, actually. You'd be very surprised how easy that has worked out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you got to start with the end in mind, right? What's the goal?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't care about the farm continuing on and the one that's farming it doesn't care, you could just split it, right? There's just so many.
Unfortunately, that happens, though. People will come in and they're like, my son doesn't have any kids. And so when he passes away, like, I just want it split evenly amongst all my children. And I'm like, okay, like, if that's the goal, like, we can sell it then, but like, that's just, I don't know, that's hard. But if people want that to happen, that's their choice, But if we want to have that farm keep going as an active farm, which we need to fight for because we need more active farms and not less, And so if we want that, if that's our goal, then let's build a plan. And the plan isn't that non-farming kids get nothing. Like, I've never had a plan written like that before. Like, that's never been what we ended on. But people just can't see through the clouds, right? They can't see all the solutions. So they don't know. How would they? So Yeah.
You've already said 2 or 3 things that I don't know about. And I mean, I haven't done 7 years of these episodes, but I've dug in a fair bit. So I
Right.
can imagine farmers are sitting at home going, oh my God, if we do this 4 ways, we're just destroying the farm. If we don't do it 4 ways, that's not fair.
You're
And
destroying the family. Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
destroy the family. And how do you not freeze up? Whether you're bold and good at dealing with confrontation or not, if you don't have the solutions,
Right.
you just freeze. That's natural, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what people are doing. They're like, they don't know the answer. And so it's a lot easier just to avoid it. Like they think the answer is going to be more painful than the problem, but it's not. The answer will solve it all. You just have to get it written up. So,
Oh, I love that. And again, going back to your point, we need to fight for the family farms. And
yeah,
what I've been seeing is that trend of the equal without the knowledge and the tools. And then
yeah.
setting, like you said, I think it was last episode or this one, if we do this way, are we kicking the can down
Forward.
10, 20, 30, 40, whatever number of years?
Yep.
And I guess that's better than nothing. But was that the best option? So,
Right.
okay, I'm looking at my points and there's 1 or 2 I want to dive into more.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, leaving non-farm assets to the non-farm children are great, but often, I'm going to say this, very often as farmers, we just invest back into the farm. More cattle, more land, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
there's
Why
some,
not? Right.
right? Why wouldn't you? That's what you do. A lot do have cabins or houses in town. So good. If you don't have that, that's not an option. So
Yeah.
then we go to insurance. You can have farm assets go to the farming kid and insurance policies for when the founders pass away, that payout goes to the non-farming children, correct?
Yep. Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then the one I want to dig into, and we mentioned it a bit in last episode and gave a teaser to get you guys back here, is the corporation and issues and issuing shares. And I hear that a lot. And we shared some concerns in the last episode. Do you want to touch on that again here? Because this is the fair and equal episode. And then let's do pros and cons and really get into that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So people will come in, the decision maker will come in and they'll be like, I got it, Heather. I know what I'm going to do. And I'll be like, what are you going to do? And they'll be like, I'm going to use a corporation. I'm already a corporation. And my accountant said I should start giving them shares. That's always a classic, right? And so I'm giving my family shares. And I'm like, okay. So they're going to be business partners. So you just made them business partners. Is that going to work? And a lot of times what I run into is the non-farming kids, they don't understand the farm. How could they, right? And maybe they lived there until they were 18 or 19 or even 20, but they've maybe been gone a long time and things have really changed. The other thing I always hear about is these stories, things that happen on the farm, maybe the son's been paying for a lot of stuff on the farm and buying it, and the non-farming child, they don't know. Or there's been times even during the 80s that one of the kids had to send money back to the farm because they had a good job and it was and so they were putting money in. There's a lot of things that can go on in our farms that not everybody knows about. Well, all of a sudden you pass away and your kids are business partners. And one's probably been involved and maybe one hasn't, right? And so, or they've got different personalities, or maybe you've got a child that is kind of an introvert and not super loud, but maybe they're married to a spouse that's super loud and maybe a little more aggressive. Or I kind of joke, do you have one of those son-in-laws that Googles what your land is worth at your table on Thanksgiving, right? They don't have any respect for it. Well, they're married, so it is as much his as it is hers. And so that can get really, really ugly. And so I always say, sit back and make sure you're not just kicking the can forward, because eventually they're going to have to make that decision. They're going to have to either try to buy each other out to keep the farm whole. They're going to have to sell it to buy one of them out because somebody's going to want out of that partnership. Their kids are going to get it. And those maybe 2 kids really like the farm and they've been busy working there and the other grandkids have not. And then they're going to want their shares. It's eventually the decision is going to have to be made. Eventually that decision on how to divide it up is going to have to be made. And so if you can keep it to one family member, that decision doesn't then you're making it. Like, you make the decision. I always encourage people, make as many decisions as you can, because then you are more likely to have family harmony. It's the ones we don't make that cause the issues. And by partnership, you're just kicking it. You're just kicking it forward. It's awfully litigated. I mean, read case law and it's absolutely crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, so much on that. We spoke about it a little bit in the
Yeah.
last episode. It's just there's a lot of conflicts of interest in that way, right? Let's do 4 children. 2 are farming and then 2
Yeah.
aren't. That example you gave in the last
Yeah.
episode was great. Okay, so the 2 farming, they're always concerned about the farm, maybe
Right.
not profit so much. They are operating, trying to grow a farm, and the 2 off-farm children, their inheritance is tied up, and
Yeah.
maybe there's not any real dividends coming.
Yep.
So automatically, those 2 non-farm children, unless they have a passion for that farm and wanting to
Yep.
see it intact, are those 2 non-farm children going like, wait a minute, let's just sell this? Like,
Right.
does that actually end up where those kids are happy? You have to
Yeah.
be paying them something and something good for them to want to stay in and not cause lawsuits.
Yeah, and it doesn't, like, you can't, like, they're gonna, the $1 million, those land's worth so much. It's gonna be millions of dollars worth of assets that you're farming there. And these non-farming kids are gonna be like, that's human nature. They're like, that's millions, like millions, you
Yeah.
know? And so, and the cash flow just doesn't match what the value of the asset is. It just doesn't. That's farming. Welcome to farming, right? And so they just don't, that's human nature. How could they understand that, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's just no way. And the other thing is, maybe you get paid good a couple years, and then you go a couple years where you don't when you're farming, and then you get paid good again. And so if you didn't get paid very well last year and you've been farming, you want to make up for it the next year. Well, they're not going to understand that. What do you mean you didn't get paid last year? It's like, well, I didn't get paid last year. Like, it's just how it works. And so they're just not going to understand it. There's just no way. And then what if they want to come? So let's say these kids are farming, like one of the kids is farming, and these non-farming kids are going to go tell them what to do. Like,
Right.
that's not going to work. Like, that happens all the time. And so, yeah, business partnerships are hard, man. And if you get to pick them, and then when you're not even going to be able to pick them, it's really bad. And even if you have good kids, they're going to see things differently. That's just how it is.
And I'm not saying anything bad with the non-farming children. It's just natural. It's like, wait a minute.
It's natural. Yep.
What's in this for me? And I'm not getting paid much, or like you said, I make a few years. Like, this doesn't make sense to the non-farming kids. And naturally, I'm resentful. And what we hope to avoid back there, causing family fights, is just going to happen here once the parents are gone. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And, by the time parents pass away, the kids are usually in their 60s, like, and because people are living longer. And so then that gets a whole nother level. Like, one of the farms that got split up around here, the dad hadn't done any planning, which was miserable. And there's 3 siblings. One of the siblings ended up retiring. Well, as soon as he retired, he wanted his share. Like, he was ready for his share. Well, his share was a third legally in the United States. He divided up legally. And so there's no way they had cattle on a feedlot and a little bit of land. There's no way you're getting a third out of that without killing it. So they had to auction everything off, land and cattle. And that was the end of it, because there was no plan in place. Now, the bad thing is too, like, the dad had passed away. So the brother was there. That's the generation that lost the farm or destroyed it, right? Not their fault, but because there was no planning in place. And then there was a 45-year-old son that had always worked there. Like, there was lots of generations working there. And there's no reason it was that way other than they didn't do planning. They absolutely didn't see an attorney and make a plan. The dad would say, oh, the instructions are in my desk drawer. All right. Those other kids never wanted anything to do with the farm. Like, that's the stuff he would say. Well, it doesn't work out that way. And so you absolutely have to get it written up. You just have to face it and get it done. And the more decisions you make, the better off you are. So,
Heather, bear with me, because sometimes I stop high level, and my mission now for 2025 is just going the next level deeper. And just, again, you guys in the audience, this is not legal advice. These are just scenarios.
yep.
Find your own team, your own farm, and then work through that. But what I like here is having a big conversation about the good, the bad, the ugly, the options, and things to think about.
Yeah.
And not thinking about them with rose-colored glasses. Right? So,
Right.
okay, I'm going to say that the founder that would say, let's pass it on in a corporation and give shares that's a great way to pass the buck. I'll just say that
Uh-huh.
quick. But be equal. All the kids feel fair, but are they doing that just because they don't know of other options? Like, if somebody came to you and said, Heather, this is what I want to do. And what would you say? And again, it's situation by situation, but would you not, and there's no non-farming assets, would you go to insurance first? What would you do?
Yeah, it's so if somebody, well, this is a good question. So this happens. People will come in and they'll be like, Heather, I was going to pass it on a corporation level. I even gave some of the kids shares already. How do I fix this? Right? Like, how do I fix this? I don't want to do it this way. I want my son to be able to farm it all, and he doesn't want to be partners with his siblings, right? And so how do we fix it? You know, you can get the share, you buy the shares out. Eventually you can put that whole process in place so that happens. And you probably want that to happen. You don't want 2 or 3 shares floating around out there because your CPA told you to do that. Right. And so you want to get those probably back in at some point. But there are so many different options. Like it might be life insurance. It might be other assets. There's been some times when people come in and it's like the farm is maybe small, right? And it's like, boy, we're barely hanging on.
Yeah.
And anybody that farms, it's probably got a full-time job and they're just doing it on the side. Like that just happens, but they're like, man, we still want this farm to stay with our son because like he was the one that's been farming it, or maybe daughter, sometimes it's daughter, right? And he's been, so and we don't have much assets. Like we're not big, like, and what do we do? And the case I have in mind, life insurance would have never worked. Like, it just wouldn't have, they wouldn't have qualified. So we can probably sell, if it's rented out land, we can share that a little bit. That's a little easier. If he's already working another job, maybe you do have to pay out for a while to the siblings after mom and dad pass away. I mean, that might be part of it sometimes. We don't often land on that. But sometimes we do. So,
And I wanted to go deeper, and a bad for me too, because sometimes I don't want to ask those questions because I don't know the answers. I feel uncomfortable, and not saying that we're going to provide the answers, but just by you sharing some thoughts and ideas starts, I would imagine, to free up people in our audience to go, oh, okay. And you think about things different. And then the main thing from all my shows is, here's the gold nugget. Here's the concept. You're not alone. Take action. Find somebody to talk to. But even if we're just saying, you're not going to give a transition plan to X many farmers in the audience right now, but just by saying those different little options, people are like, oh, okay, right? And just to me, where we're looking at corporations and shares, it's like, I hear a lot of that. What are the pros and cons? Let's just have that back and forth. So people aren't like, wow, corporation with shares, it's the answer to everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we didn't think of this, right? Because corporation with shares too, eventually there's going to be siblings that are unhappy and you're going to have to buy them out. So if you don't have money in the bank to buy them out, you're getting a loan to pay these guys. And can the farm afford that? To me, that would be considerations as a farm founder, like, right here.
And then the bank wins, right?
Okay.
The bank's going to win because they're getting the interest payment. You're paying. I hate it's my pet peeve. I don't want to get a loan on land that's paid off. Like if you've got land that's paid off, like don't get a loan. Figure out a way to pass it on without having to go get a loan from the bank. But that happens. People will have a plan in place. They'll come in and they'll be like, I'm not happy with this. I don't know how to fix it. And a lot of times it's like, well, they're going to, brother's going to buy out sister when they pass away with a loan. Well, the bank wins. Don't do that. There's way better ways to do that. Don't give them their 10% or whatever. So, yeah.
Well, how many times do we see that, right?
It's awful.
This same piece of land's being bought by this generation and this generation.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't make every generation buy the land again, because you're never going to make it. That's crazy.
Yeah, especially at land prices now too, which is the transition planning problem.
Yeah.
I think, Heather, the main takeaway is there are options, and consider all the options, the good, the bad, the ugly with each one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to share a conversation I had with a young farmer the other day because it's on my heart. And
Nice.
this fair and equal thing, like there's two sides to it. Um, and if you're there on the farm, like you got to speak up and you got to treat it like a business too. And I see people spend their whole entire life on farms. They're not getting a pension. They're not getting a 401k. They're working really hard. Some years they get paid well, some years they don't, right? And they love the farm. So they're doing that. And it's a great way to live. But there's no guarantee that they're going to inherit it. Mom and dad haven't done planning. And so they put themselves in a position where they're not, who knows, they could get to age 60 and lose the whole thing and or have to sell it, and only, which nobody wants, don't do that, right? Don't work so hard. So I tell people, know your value on that farm. And one of the cases, somebody came up to me the other day, a young farmer, and I'm sure he thought, holy cats, this lady's crazy. Because I'm like, oh my gosh. I got really passionate about it because his dad had passed away 2 years ago and he's young. I'm sure he gave up college to come home and farm.
Oh, wow.
And him and his wife were there. And he said, Dad passed away and I jumped in and just started doing it. Gives me chills thinking about it because we all know people like that, right? And he's like, I jumped in and started doing it. And now I'm farming every day, running this operation. And my mom's not doing planning. I don't know what's going to happen and I don't know what to do. And I said, how many kids are there? 5. There's 5 kids. And I'm like, oh, and I said, I know it's hard on your mom, but it's been 2 years. And I told him, you have got to know your value. You've got to know your value. And and I always tell my son, when he comes home to farm, I said, go do a wage study. If you don't think you're getting paid enough in the summer, go do a wage study and come back and show it to your dad, right? We have got to start treating it like a business. And I've got a script and I can give you the link if you want to attach it here. And it's called the No Drama, Low Drama script. And it helps people think through how to approach the decision makers if they're not making a decision. If I'm working on the farm, or even if I'm not, and I just care about the farm, how do I approach mom and dad or whoever's not making a decision in a way that honors them and honors the farm, but makes them take action? The other thing, and I might have mentioned this in the last podcast we did, but when I wrote my book, I interviewed 100 farm wives. And some of the best advice I got from that was I interviewed a farm wife, and she said every year, her and her husband go away, just the two of them, and they have a family meeting. And did I share this with you? I don't remember.
I don't think so.
Okay. They go away and they have a family meeting, just the two of them. And everybody knows they do it. The parents that own the farm know they do it. And during that meeting, they talk about whether him working on the farm is the right thing to be doing because he left a really good career to go do it. He loves it, but they took a pay cut, right? So he left a good career to go home and farm. And they're in their 30s. They're pretty young yet. They talk about whether him farming is the right thing for the next year. And they talk about whether her staying at home with the kids and doing what she's doing is the right thing for the family. And they have an honest discussion about it. And everybody knows that's what they're going to do, which is important, right? We need to share stuff. And so, and that's how it goes. Now, that means a lot. That means a lot to your family unit. And it also tells those parents, it's not a guarantee that younger generation is staying here. There's the part of the fair and equal, but we also have to create farms that make kids want to come home to farm. Because about 50% of the people I work with, they don't have anybody to come home. And we got to step back and say, why is that? And sometimes it's because we had a miserable farm where we were yelling. That might hit close to home, right? There's yelling going on and or it's all seen as work. Well, nobody wants to come home for that. They're not going to come home and farm if that's how it was seen, right? Or there just wasn't an opening. You didn't open it up for them to come home. You didn't build capacity. And now you're they're going to come home. And it's they're not coming home. They're ready to retire from their job. So there's a lot to manage there. But my point is it's both sides. And I told that young gentleman that came to me, I said, you know your value and you go to your mom and you treat it like a business. She's the owner and you're working there, and share what your value is and say, this isn't running without me. We need to take action to make sure I can stay here and that I can always stay here and be safe, So yeah, it's a lot of conversations, those tough ones. And I don't think it used to be that way. Years ago, it just wasn't so complicated, but farms are bigger. A lot of discussions have to happen. They're definitely business. We need to think of it as a business. So Yeah.
Heather, I love that. Like, we're soul sisters on this stuff. Exactly like you just said. In the past, I think it was okay. It was okay, still stressful and
Yeah.
destroyed family harmony. If a son's sitting there, or daughter, equal opportunity here, if they're sitting here going, this is going to be mine one day, but there's no conversation, I'm stressed. But I think that assumption was probably safer back in the day. But now
Yeah.
you look at a bright 40-year-old guy, gal in this
Yeah.
situation with litigation, fair and equal, missing out on your career. I
Yeah.
don't think that's a safe thing to do anymore, where you go, dad and
Yeah.
mom have my best interest. And sure they do, but they also care about all the children
Right.
as they should, right?
Yeah. Right. They love them all equally, we
Yeah.
hope. Yeah.
And to me, I'm trying to get to the bottom. I care about the farm. I care about the farm child. I care about the farm child's relationship, because here's other things we don't talk about. When the farm child's unhappy, doesn't know the certainty, that bleeds over to the farm family, right? Because wife, husband, this is quite vulnerable and quite frank, but here we are, we know it. And not my situation, but I just see it. The farm wife wants her husband to be treated well. She wants certainty. So
Yeah.
he's going to get that pressure. It's going to affect their marriage. I care about the non-farming children,
Mm-hmm.
and I care about the farm, if I didn't say that already. So
Right.
how do we find a situation where we protect the farm, the harmony, and don't have people hanging on to a dream of this is going to be mine, and they waste their whole
Yeah.
working career to
Yeah.
find out? Like, yucky.
Yeah. It's awful. It's horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're of the same mission, exactly like you just said. So again, guys, I've said it before. I'm probably your biggest cheerleader.
You're so kind.
You're welcome. I have a few individuals now that are writing some phenomenal books, and I'm here cheerleading you guys, because literally, for whatever this costs, this will give you guys a lot of peace of mind. Very easy to read. I mentioned it in the last episode. Good run through of the high level, what you need to know, what you need to think about. And I've always found, Heather, I think we're similar. When you're in doubt and uncertainty and fear, and you feel like chasing your tail around, like that's what you feel like, my
Mm,
answer is always seek knowledge,
yeah.
because then you have a point, something to focus on, right?
Yeah. For
And
sure.
steps.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Final words of wisdom. I've kept you so long here on
Oh,
our
it's good.
two-part episode. I
Good.
cherish this. Thank you. Final words of wisdom.
Um, always take action, right? Like, and seek information, take action. But on top of that too is get that right team. Like, and I know I talked about it in the last one, but I just see so many times it doesn't work because we're not in front of the right professionals, or we think we only need one person and we don't realize we need, a really good CPA, a good attorney, and a good advisor. Like, you need all of those, and get the right ones that have your best interest at heart, but also understand firm succession planning. Like, they can't just be, it's just too complicated nowadays. It can't be just a generalist. And so if you are struggling, like, you're like, man, I want to take action, like I want to be doing the right thing, but maybe I just keep seeking knowledge and I'm not getting enough, or like you're like, you feel like you don't have, like, maybe you went through the process and you're like, this isn't really what I wanted, or I don't even understand this. Go back to who was on your team and figure out, maybe somebody needs to be switched out. Maybe you need to get a second opinion. And it's not uncommon for people to have a core team in their life of a CPA, an attorney, maybe they use for their business stuff, and then a financial advisor who does their investments and they really like them, and you have your core team. Once in a while, you got to step out and replace one of those team members just for farm succession planning. You'd be like, that happens frequently. Maybe you've got a really good local attorney that can definitely handle all your stuff that you would need done. But when it comes to farm succession planning, you need to step it up and get somebody that specializes. And so don't hesitate to do that. As professionals, we all understand that. So for sure. Yeah.
I love it. Heather, you are a gem. Thank you for joining me again. Thank you for putting this work together. I know it wasn't easy, but so valuable. So thank you, Heather. I
For
appreciate it.
having me again. I just am so passionate about sharing, solutions and just helping one farm at a time. That's what we got to do. So
I love it. It is my pleasure to have you on the show again. You guys in the audience, if you like this as much as I did, like it, share it, get it out there. Honestly, every farmer needs to hear this episode, watch this episode, and buy this book. So see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
bye.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.